My father is now on his deathbed. He verbally and mentally abused me when I was younger and now wants to see me. I have no desire to see this man, but my mother and sisters are giving me hell over it, and my wife thinks I should at least go once. What do? I have 3 sisters that I love and a mother I adore. Not always, though. I hated them when I was younger because while my father would yell at me or belittle me for everything possible, they were the apples of his eyes. I did my best at school and karate, but nothing impressed him. Not when I earned a full scholarship to a prestigious university, not when I was the valedictorian of my year group, not even at 26 when I managed to start my own small company that has grown considerably since. No matter what I did, I was made to feel worthless, less than a person, good for nothing, useless, a failure. I have lingering issues about it to this day. When I was younger, all I wanted just once was for my father to say, "I'm proud of you." Nothing even close. He doted on my sisters and mother, though, and I'm not proud to say I hated them for it as much as I hated him. How dare they get away so lightly? How dare they get his smiles and laughter and kind words when all I had to get was cruelty? It took me a long time to finally begin a relationship with my sisters or mom that wasn't the jealous, angry son. Today we are all very close. I love them to death and would do anything for them. Some time ago, my father was diagnosed with cancer. He's had other issues as well, suffered through 2 heart attacks and a stroke, and it seems as if his body can't carry on anymore. He's dying, and I don't care. I don't have it in me to care. If he died, I could live the rest of my life having never seen him before he passed, or knowing that I won't attend his funeral. He wasn't present at my wedding either. I did not invite him, which was very noticeable to many of my family members. But I didn't care. I'd found a woman who loved me and that I loved, and I wanted to share that day with the other important people in my life that I love or strongly like. My uncle was always sympathetic to my case. As growing up, my father, his older brother, was a jerk to him, and he understood why I wouldn't want my father there, even while other family members thought I should have still invited him. Here's the thing. He wants to see me. He probably has only a few months left and now wishes to see me. My wife, mother, and sisters all want me to pay a visit to him. Well, my wife thinks I should go just once. She isn't pressuring me. She knows my history with him and says if I decide not to go, that's it then. My mother and sisters, however, do think I should go and have all spoken to me several times in the past month about this. The only person who's laid off bugging me about it is my older sister. I'm the second child, she's 34, and she was the one who saw my father be a weenie to me from as far back as she or I can remember. My 2 other sisters are several years younger, 26 and 25. We met recently to talk about it, my older sister and I, and for the first time in years, I broke down crying. I literally just let it out. I told her I can't do it. I tried to put everything in the past, but I can't. I hate that man and what he did to me mentally. I can't forgive him, and she says she understands. She said she'd speak to my mother and sisters. However, my mother and sisters tend to be very pushy. Anyway, do you all think I should go at least once? Now for a few important comments. One commenter said, "While only you can make the decision on whether or not you want to see him, it might be an opportunity for you to find some sort of personal closure. You don't have to go and tell him everything is okay and that you forgive him. You can go and tell him all the things you have said here and get it all off your chest. Whether he wants to listen and apologize is up to him. He may very likely be finally feeling remorse. Regardless, you may feel better knowing that you finally told him how you feel and what he has done to you. Let him know that you have succeeded despite him, not because of him. However, if you feel that this wouldn't help you, then I would just not go. No use going and just being uncomfortable or going just out of feeling like you owe it to your mother or sisters. You would just be resentful." Then OP replied, "To be honest, the idea of helping him make peace with himself and me after years of being treated like dirt, it makes me sick. The idea that this guy, who is the reason I suffer with bouts of depression and was even suicidal when I was in my late teens, now could possibly want to tell me he's sorry. It doesn't sit right with me. I wouldn't even be surprised if he tells me that I'm still worthless. at which point I may have to avoid punching a dying guy in the face. Another commenter said, I think you need to put your own mental health first. A few questions to consider. Is there anything you feel like you could gain from seeing him? Is there anything you want to say to him while you still have the chance? If he suddenly begged for your forgiveness, how could you see yourself handling that? If he swept the past under the rug and resolutely ignored it, how do you see yourself handling that? And the big one, no matter what happened, when you left that room, do you think you'd feel better or worse than before you went in? Is there any situation that would give you some benefit, and how likely is that to happen? OP responded, 1. Probably just hearing a soon-to-be dead guy's last words to me. 2. Probably that if I have a son, I will do my utmost to be a far better father than he ever was. 3. I would say no. You had your chance. I tried to unalive myself once because of you, and you didn't bat an eyelash, so you can die now, and I'm gonna leave here, and you won't cross my mind again. 4. I think I'd be angry. He doesn't get the right to decide it's okay between us. That's my choice and mine alone. He doesn't get to decide on his deathbed. I hurt you, but it's cool. We're cool now. The big one. I can't say, maybe worse rather than better. Maybe a mix. I'll likely be angry though, because here's why. All my life, I saw him as the big scary man who broke me down. Now I'm grown up and strong and doing well, and I can't look him eye to eye, man to man, and say whatever I might have to say, because I don't know what I would say if I went. It would probably just be spontaneous, but no, I have to look at him, man to broken old man lying on a deathbed, and pretend to care that he's going to kick the bucket for my family. Excuse my language. Then another commenter said, go and see your father and tell him this. It is the last chance you will have to make amends. It's the last chance you will have to potentially hear your father apologize, or for him to tell you that he is proud of you but didn't know how to express it. He might not do any of that, in which case you are no worse off than you are now. Now for the post. In the best case, though, you might get some peace and closure. Obviously, it can't make up for all that has happened, but at least you will no longer have any what-ifs eating away at you. Honestly, if I go, it will merely be out of curiosity to see what it is he wants in his final few days or weeks, making amends, telling me he's been proud but didn't know how to express it. Even if he did want to say things like that, the time for that was maybe a decade ago when I wanted his validation and respect. I don't anymore. I don't have any what-ifs. Maybe a what-if might have been, what if he'd treated me well instead of like crap? But that what-if disappeared when I cut him off nearly a decade ago. Now for a few comments. A commenter said, it doesn't sound like it would be healthy for you to go. Did your mother ever acknowledge that what he did to you was wrong? I would just say to your mother and sisters that seeing your father would not bring you peace of mind, and your father's actions caused you not to care about his peace of mind. Then the original poster replied, yes, but I think as he's dying, they just want me to see him. Another commenter asked, would it make any difference to you if he wanted to say he was sorry? Would it make you feel better, or do you just not care? Regardless, it's 100% your choice. If you don't want to go, tell your wife and older sister you need them to support your decision. Tell your mom and your other sisters they need to stop talking to you about it. My experience with Dad was 100% different than yours. He verbally and emotionally neglected and abused me from when I was small until I moved out. The fact that he so obviously adored all of you made it even worse for me. I've managed to move on, and I have no wish to revisit the emotional pain and turmoil that I suffered. Please respect my decision and don't discuss this with me anymore. But my experience with Dad was 100% different than yours. Please respect my decision. If you bring it up again, I am going to have to exit this conversation. Then the original poster responded, it wouldn't make me feel better. I don't care anymore. Maybe 10 or even 5 years ago. Not now, though. The only reason I'm curious is to see if he's remorseful or wants one last opportunity to be a weenie. Like I said, I don't care. Not that he's dying. Not that by my birthday next year he'll likely have been dead for some time. Even if I visit him, I won't attend his funeral, nor will I ever visit his grave to pay respect, because I have no respect for that man or any other sort of positive emotion. Another commenter shared, I had a father who wasn't hurtful, but certainly not emotionally supportive during my childhood. He paid a lot of attention to his biological kid from another marriage. Our relationship got much better over the last few years, mostly because we made an effort to understand each other better. If I was in this situation, I'd be there, and it wouldn't be an issue, because he made an effort while he still had years ahead of him. The reason I'm telling you this is that I'm 3 years younger than you. Yet it seems during this entire time where he thought he'd be alive, your dad never really made an effort to reach across the aisle and apologize to you or make amends. Not to be a weenie, but deathbed confessions are cheap. His ego is finally out of the question now that he's facing his mortality. But where were these feelings during those 31 years? Your mother and younger sisters are thinking emotionally and are being extremely selfish because this is what they want. They want some cathartic moment to justify doubting you all these years and validate their views that your dad was some great guy. Frick that. That's all this is. It has nothing to do with your well-being. I think you're better served by staying home and standing up for yourself. If they call you selfish or a jerk or anything heartless like that, then ask them where they think you got it from and hang up and let them deal with it. They were on each other's side during life. Why should death change that? Then the original poster said, this actually makes a lot of sense, the way you explain everything. My older sister knows he was a jerk on some level, yet at the same time, being his first child/daughter, she was pretty much the apple of his eye, so she's a bit 50-50 on that. The same commenter replied, I would really highly encourage you not to go. You sound like you'd be doing it only to appease other people. It's not right. And if you don't, you can see what the aftermath is, and whether or not your mother and sisters hold more loyalty to a dead man than their living flesh and blood. Then the original poster responded, I know it won't tear us apart, like so many people feel. My younger sisters never saw me get treated badly. By the time they were old enough to see what was happening, I'd been out of the house for a few years. So I can't blame them, nor hold it against them. I don't even hold it against my mother because she's old, she's ill, and perhaps one of the greatest tragedies in her life is that her husband and her only son have never liked each other. From my perspective, even if I don't see my father and he dies, she won't hate me, nor will my elder sister. Now for the 3-week update. So I went to see my dad and it basically went like shoot. I caved. I freaking caved and decided, frick it, I'll see what he wants. Maybe this is something worth hearing. I visited the hospital by myself. No wife, no mom, no sisters, just him and I. He looked old and tired, and just as I predicted, I didn't find it in me to be angry. This wasn't the man I remembered. This was just some old, broken man. It would have been a waste of my time to feel angry, and yet I did. I was so pissed off because I couldn't stand across from him eye to eye and let him see that the son he treated like dog shit had built a wonderful life for himself. We didn't say anything to each other for around an hour. Then eventually I found my voice and said, you know this is the last time we'll ever see each other, right? No response. Then he replied, I know. So I asked him why now? Why did he want to see me so badly that he had to send a message through my mother for me? And here is where I learned that my existence was frick all to him. He admitted that he did it just to give my mom closure. She didn't ask him to do it, but he knew she wanted it. So I asked him why he treated me the way he did my whole life, and he replied, I never wanted a son, never had any interest in one. It freaking hurt, but I kept listening and he kept speaking. He said that in the first few years of my life, he tried his best to care about me, but eventually he realized he couldn't. Then came the final nail in the coffin of my relationship with that man. I never loved you, but I didn't hate you either. I just didn't care for you because I never wanted a son. I wanted to give you up for adoption when you were younger, but your mother would never have forgiven me. So I did my best to push you aside and you would always try and get my approval for stuff. I felt bad at times, but I just didn't care for you. By that time, I was crying, Me, a 31-year-old man, left my dying father in his hospital room and went to my car crying. I could have gone my whole life not knowing that. Frick my mom, my sisters, my wife, and my dad. I'm just so pissed right now. There was a part of me that hoped we would bury the hatchet. Nope, I just learned he never gave a frick. I will never speak of my father again. I will not attend his funeral or visit his grave. When he dies, I'll be at the bar drinking, because the fricker is gone from this world, and I will do everything I can to be the father he never was. Now for a few important comments. When asked about his regrets, OP said, "You know what I regret. I regret listening to my mother. I regret reading the dozens upon dozens of PMs and comments telling me to go see my dad, that I needed to do it. Most of all, I regret listening to myself, to that small voice telling me this was my one chance to hear him say something I'd wanted to hear since I was a child. If I'd never gone, I would have been curious, but I'm damn sure I would have regretted it less than I regret going to the hospital." Then another commenter said, "Well, maybe it was some form of closure, although a really freaking shoot one. Good riddance. I don't get along with my father either. This whole story gives me anxiety." OP replied, "I'm freaking done. I've spent the night at a bar and am just here in a shitty motel room, unable to sleep and just freaking pissed. I had to be the stupid kid who still hoped daddy might just secretly have loved him. And in reward for my stupidity, I got the same as I've always gotten. Nothing. Freaking nothing. Not a single frick all shred of remorse." Another commenter shared, "We don't get to opt into the family we are born into. That's why spouses and friends are so important. They're the family we pick. I'm so sorry this happened. Screw your father. You deserve better, and he should have taken that kind of shoot to the grave with him. He could have lied and pretended or something if he was even a halfway decent person. As someone who has cut ties with family members, I am so sorry. I will likely be faced with this situation someday. It's an impossible decision. Do you forgive and let the person die in peace? Do you stand by your beliefs? Do you go and let them dump on you? I know it's easier said than done, but don't let this bug you. It was always the case that he didn't shoot. Now it's just known to you as well. Go hug and appreciate the family you chose, and don't give him another minute of your time." OP responded, "I'm glad he didn't lie. At least I got to hear some of what was going through his head in regards to me for 31 years. And as harsh as it was, I'd rather know that than him giving me some BS fairy tale sob story apology. At least I finally got the answer I was looking for, but hoping I wouldn't get, and he got one last chance to kick me, so we both win in a way." Then a commenter suggested, "Have been a passive observer for a while, but set up an account to reply to this post. Be the man your father was not. Go and see him, hold his hand, and tell him all those times you hurt when he treated you like shoot. Forgive him for what happened and hug him before you leave. That way you are the bigger man. Let him know what he missed all those years and don't hold anything against him. When he dies, go to the funeral to say your final goodbyes. You will have a weight lifted off you that you would never have been able to lift off even with all the therapy sessions. Be the man your father was not." OP answered, "I already saw him. I am not going to forgive him. He doesn't deserve it. I have no plans to hug him, hold his hand, or demonstrate any affection. There is none. When he dies, his son will not be present at his funeral. I have no goodbye to give him. When he dies, I'll carry on with my life. I went to see him once, and that is it, no more. I can be the man he wasn't without doing those things." Finally, another commenter said, "Damn, you should have recorded the conversation and played it at his funeral. Show everyone what a total piece of shoot that guy was." OP concluded, "Nah, I won't be there. Let them all have their moments, remembering what an oh-so-great man he was. I'll be at home or work, or if I'm really lucky, backpacking through Europe with my wife. Unlikely as it is, but a guy can dream. Am I the idiot for demanding my wife destroy her conspiracy board after she planted her own bra to frame a neighbor? I'm not sure if this is the right place to post this, but here goes. My wife is totally normal otherwise, which makes this so strange to me. For context, we're both in our later 30s and live in a pretty typical suburban neighborhood where we all know each other. My wife has always loved trashy movies and shows about infidelities, and she eats up true crime about spouses ending the life of their cheating partners too. She just says something about it makes her morbidly fascinated, in her words. Well, a couple of months back, we had a scandal in our neighborhood where a married couple divorced because the husband cheated. No, there wasn't an unalive or anything like that, but she became obsessed with learning every detail from every neighbor. No matter the occasion, be it a baby shower or cookout, she would bring it up, hoping there would be any new information. A month later is when I stumbled on the board in her home office. I was doing some cleaning and found a massive bulletin board facing away, leaned up against the wall. Curiosity got the better of me, and I turned it around to find a literal conspiracy board of all our neighbors' pictures with lines of yarn connecting each other like the Pepe Sylvia meme. I was totally confused and asked what this was, and she told me it was a hobby she had started recently where she would track rumors or likely candidates for cheating on the board. The yarn represented who was possibly cheating with whom. She had clearly gotten all the images on Facebook or some social media and printed them out and even had a few sticky notes with details. I told her this was creepy and insane, and she said maybe if I was doing it as a man, but she is just having harmless fun as a hobby. And she wouldn't be crazy and try to oust anyone based on rumors. She just likes feeling like a detective. She told me to view it like a creative art piece. I was still super weirded out, but let it go, or tried. I thought about it a lot. Well, every now and then, I admit to checking the board when cleaning, but just a couple of days ago, I looked to see that now I was on the board with a yarn attached to a neighbor's wife I am casual friends with. I asked her why she would add me if she thought I was cheating, and she said that was a different yarn color for potential matches. For cheating? She said if it makes me feel better, she was planning on adding herself to the board soon. Well, I got pissed and kind of lost my temper about it. I told her to get rid of the board, or our marriage will be in trouble. Things have been super rocky since. Sorry for the long post. I am starting to feel bad, and it hit me more than usual this morning. Should I apologize to her? And before you ask, no, I don't suspect her of cheating. Honestly, I wish she was, because it would at least make more sense than this. Am I the jerk? Now for the 1-week update. Anyway, Jesus Christ. Firstly, appreciate all of the concern and NTAs. It gave me the courage to approach her and tell her that while I may have overreacted by threatening our marriage, I think it is a creepy thing to do. She apologized and said she would get rid of the board. I thought we were good. Literally 2 days later. Shesh tea hits the fan. Our happily married next-door neighbor finds a woman's bra under the bed that does not belong to her. It doesn't take long for the whole neighborhood to find out. Well, my wife is giddy, like jumping up and down for joy. She shows me the board, which she still didn't trash like she promised. And of course, the husband was marked with yarn, meaning he was likely to cheat. She told me the board was accurate after all, and maybe she should keep her hobby around. I was definitely suspicious, so I looked at the board again later. It looked different from the last time I saw it before the latest scandal. Instead of the yarn connecting to another neighbor, the cheating husband's yarn connected to a post-it with a question mark. Firstly, it was the only question mark there, and I swore it wasn't there last time I saw the board. So either she changed it after the cheating to prove a point, or slightly before it happened, which made me even more suspicious either way. Now I felt like I was the detective, and I was going crazy. I went over to the cheating husbands to ask a few questions. The wife was staying at her parents', so it was just the two of us. I asked him if he actually did it, and he said no, he would never. Then I asked if my wife had been over recently. He said one day while you were at work, his wife asked her to water a plant they had while they were both away and told her where the key was. So yes, I immediately raised an eyebrow. I asked if he still had the bra, and he was getting nervous and told me not to get the wrong idea. I said, don't worry, he still had the bra, and I looked at it. It was my wife's, but one I knew she almost never wore because it was from a lingerie set I bought her one Christmas she said was uncomfortable. I told my neighbor I needed to talk to my wife and ran out, but I told him not to worry. I approached her with the bra and asked her what was going on. She played stupid, but I told her to cut the BS. I asked if she had either cheated on me with him or planted it there. Either way, she was in trouble. She confessed to planting the bra and said it was to make me admit her hobby was valid or something. I flipped on her. I said this was worse than her cheating on me because instead of ruining just our marriage, she ruined our neighbors and ours. I demanded she call the wife and admit to everything, even sending pictures of the board. I even showed the Reddit post, which actually helped convince her my wife had planted it rather than cheated with her husband. Well, they made up, but now I have no idea what to do. I am barely speaking to my wife, and it is only a matter of time before the entire neighborhood figures this out. I seriously need advice. Now for the 2-month update. It's been months since the last update. Sorry, I've been busy. Long story short, my wife is in a mental health facility. After what had happened previously, I did not speak to my wife for a while. I tried to stay working or out of the house as often as I could. Well, a few weeks passed, and time made it seem like less and less of a big deal. Finally, my wife offered to take me out to a very nice dinner to make things up to me. She told me everything was behind her, and while I was avoiding her, she had actually started online therapy to get help and realized now what she did was wrong. I really believed her, and we had a great night. One thing led to another that night, and yeah. She took about 2 days after that to get a pregnancy test and texted me the positive result. I know some of you already think I'm a moron, but it had been a rough year, and this made me really happy. I started getting very excited. We started talking about turning my home office into a baby room, looking up ways to prepare, booking appointments, planning a shower, etc. It was a really fun but whirlwind week. Unfortunately, she told me the first ultrasound was at a time I had to be at work, and she would have to go alone. That really bummed me out, and I asked her to reschedule, but she said it was the only availability. Well, that next week, she went, and I waited for an update or pictures or anything. Nothing. She came home and was super quiet, and I flipped out and got super worried that the worst had happened. I told her I understood she was probably in a lot of pain about something, but she had to tell me. She finally admitted no, it wasn't a miscarriage. But she was actually pregnant for longer than she thought, longer than the last time we did it. She actually got pregnant during the time I was avoiding her. Obviously, I was so mad and upset, and I couldn't understand why she would do this to me. But then I realized all the signs were there for so long, and all the comments telling me she was probably cheating were right. But I tried to keep a clear head for at least a second because I really love my wife, and I couldn't believe it. I asked her who it could have been, and she actually said she didn't know. She said she hadn't done it with anyone during the time I was avoiding her. She swore it and also didn't know what this meant. I thought about it and realized if she was really pregnant for that long, her tummy should be showing, and it wasn't. I decided to call the place and ask them to confirm what they said. My wife told me it would be a waste of time, and she promised she heard them clearly, so I didn't do it that night. But I couldn't sleep that night without hearing it from the doctors myself. I called the clinic she told me she went to the day before in the morning and asked them to confirm the results. They told me something worse than I expected. She had no visit. She was never there. I didn't understand that at all. Before I talked to my wife again, I did what I should have done in the first place and reverse image searched the pregnancy test image. Yeah, it was on Google from a random years-old Facebook post. I was again really mad at my wife and couldn't believe she would put me through all this. I confronted her about the picture and that I called the place and there was no appointment. I told her she had a pattern of lying and this was probably the end of our relationship, but she responded in a way I didn't expect. She burst into tears and went manic, which I did expect, but then said that she really had cheated on me and really was pregnant and that I had made this up in my head because I couldn't face what she did to me. She said she felt like the devil and dictator and started sobbing and literally screaming at the top of her lungs. She locked herself in the bathroom and told me she was going to unalive herself over what she did to me. I couldn't get the door open and freaked out. I called the cops and they broke the door down. She was not hurt, but she was really out of it. They took her to get a mental evaluation, and she told them everything there. She even started mixing in stuff about the board and how she knew everyone around her was a cheater. So she had done the same because she was in an evil place. She promised them she was pregnant, but she didn't know who the father was. They tested her while in custody, and no pregnancy at all. They told me she was likely suffering from a form of schizophrenia and actually genuinely believed what she was saying, and likely always had to some level, but it seemed to be getting worse. They said she had a symptom called self-accusation and needed help. Well, I got her in a facility last week, and she is safe. They are making a little progress. I do not think she thinks she is pregnant anymore. I have visited a few times, but she is very withdrawn with me and says she feels too guilty to look me in the eye. I think there was definitely meddling at certain parts, like planting evidence, but now I just feel terrible I did not get her the help she needed when all the real signs were there. I hope her medication starts to help and she can be normal again. And yeah, the neighborhood gossip is having a field day with all this. Anyway, thanks for listening. I hope this is my last update. Thanks for all the help. Am I the idiot for leaving my controlling boyfriend after he tried to stop me from attending my mother's funeral? My mom died a couple days ago. My boyfriend is refusing to go to the funeral or let my daughter go with me because it's religious. Like the title says, I just lost my mom a couple of days ago from ovarian cancer. I'm devastated right now, and my boyfriend, who I've been with for a year and a half, isn't helping me at all. My mom and I weren't on good terms before her death because of my boyfriend. John and my mom never got along because he's a deep-set atheist, and my mom is very religious. Major issues popped up once I got pregnant and had my daughter. My mom pressed for me to have my baby baptized into the church, which I wanted to do, but John was dead set against it. He convinced me that baptizing her and indoctrinating her was a bad choice, and that we should leave it to her to choose when she was old enough. I agreed. My mom didn't take this well at all, and after many angry and hurt arguments, she cut off contact with me. Not having my mom with me during my pregnancy or my baby's birth took a big emotional toll on me, but John insisted it was for the best, and he didn't want my mom near my daughter at all, and that my mom was evil for hurting me. At the time, I was angry, so I agreed. I found out my mom was sick with ovarian cancer a month ago when she called me and wanted to talk. I was horrified, and all the nonsense kind of just fell away. I tried to make the best of my time with her, brought my daughter to meet her grandma, and tried to build good memories with her. I'm happy to say we reconciled, and my mom and I made our peace with each other before she died. I don't want to trash my boyfriend, but John has been a pain in the butt since I found out my mom was sick. He said she deserved it, but quickly backed down when he saw how angry that made me. He refused to go with me to visit or help care for my mom. He didn't even really want to listen to me talk about how happy I was to reconnect with my mom. All he did was remind me that my mom hurt me and I should have no contact with her, and she didn't deserve for me to speak to her. I told him that my mom isn't perfect, but my mom also raised me by herself and that she was my rock for many years, and he should respect that. He said nothing outside telling me there was no value in talking to her. Now we're planning the funeral. I asked John to go with me, and he refused instantly. He said he hated my mom, that she was a cunt to our family, and that he wasn't going to church ever, and it was rude and insensitive of me to ask. When I said I was taking my daughter, he had the nerve to actually tell me that I was not under any circumstances taking her. I have been through an emotional roller coaster this past week. I lost my mom after we finally made up. My boyfriend has been stupidly unsupportive, and now he's refusing to let me take my child to her grandmother's funeral and refusing to come to at least support me. My daughter is the one thing that brings me comfort, and I want her with me. Is that so unreasonable? It seems like the more I push, the more he digs his heels in, and I just can't take it anymore. I don't know what to do. His attitude towards this entire thing is breaking my heart on top of my mom's death. Now for some comments. One commenter asked, "How does he plan on stopping you from taking her to the service?" The original poster replied, "He can't. I've decided that I'm taking her unless he tries to physically stop me, and even then, good luck." Another commenter said, "Your boyfriend is being completely irrational. He has no say in whether you go to the funeral or whether you bring your daughter. He's making your loss about him. Hell, he made your relationship with your mother about him. Your pregnancy and birth was full of stress from his nonsense drama he started with your mother. Go to the funeral. Bring your daughter. You deserve to say goodbye to your mother, no matter how tumultuous your relationship had been. I'm sorry for your loss." The original poster responded, "I don't know if it's because I'm so upset, but I'm starting to see that too. It's always been about him. He's never accepted my wants and instead insisted on a compromise that favored him. I've had enough." Another commenter asked about the mom, to which the original poster replied, "My mom actually cut me off when I said that we decided not to baptize my daughter. I tried for weeks and months to reach out to her and even texted and called when the baby arrived and got no response. I really wish I had tried harder, like gone to the house and knocked, or even just tried to run into her and talk to her. I was really hurt by what my mom did, and I let John talk me into thinking that my mom really was this mean, vindictive person for cutting me out of her life. Trust me when I say I regret it with all my heart now." Now for the 5-day update. Thanks to everyone that sent me condolences about my mom. It's been really hard these past several days, but I've been hanging in there okay. I tried being reasonable with John about how he wanted to handle things. I even told him, like one poster here suggested, that he didn't have to go to the service, but could wait in the lobby with my daughter while the service was ongoing. Then she could spend time with my family after the service. But he again shot it down. He would be able to hear the service, and that was a violation of his beliefs, and asking to compromise on those beliefs was unconscionable and unfair to our daughter. I told him I had had it. This is the icing on a very large cake. I told John that as of this week, I wanted our bank accounts separated. He made us join accounts to make sure we split everything equally, to be fair, despite me making more, and that I'd be staying with my brother after the funeral while we figured out what to do, whether that was a total breakup or counseling. It was up to him. He said counseling was for the weak-minded and that we were staying together despite my empty threats. And there was no way in hell he was letting me take his money. He became very loud and in my face during this conversation, so I just let him throw his tantrum until he took my silence as agreement. I took my daughter with me to the viewing with no problems. John and I barely spoke that day, which was fine by me. But it hit the fan the next day when I got up in the morning to get myself ready and get my daughter ready. I discovered that he had the gall to park his car directly behind mine, blocking me into the driveway. I had no way to get to the funeral in my own car. John always drives to work, but for reasons I can only imagine were to get back at me, decided to take the metro and took the baby carriage and bottles and my pump with him. My brother and I have our differences. Granted, in fact, we haven't talked much since my mom and I were estranged. We started talking again after she was sick, but he'll forever be a saint to me for what he did. I called him crying, and he and my sister-in-law arrived within 20 minutes. Sister-in-law calmed me down and helped me get my daughter ready, and they brought along spare bottles, a carrier, and a breast pump. Thanks to them, I was able to go to my mom's funeral in comfort, and my daughter was an angel during the service. They calmed me down, and everything went perfectly. And even though I was a mess most of the day, having my daughter with me and my sister-in-law and even my brother with me to lean on gave me peace on the inside. I've made up my mind not to tolerate John's insane and controlling behavior anymore. He had a litany of excuses for doing what he did. He even tried to claim his car had problems, and I don't want to hear any of them. I never wanted to be a single mom. I always wanted to raise my baby within a family. But I've decided that going alone is so much better than doing it with this man, who thought nothing of trying to kick me while I was down. and my brother's arranged for me to talk to a friend of his that specializes in family law this week, and we're taking it from there. I still feel so guilty for what happened with my mom. I miss her so much. I hope from here on out I can make her proud of me, despite my mistakes. Now for a few comments. A commenter said, "I am so sorry you are going through this right now, and I'm so glad you have the support of a family behind you. Your daughter is far better off without someone like this as a role model for what she should look for in life. And I'm glad you're getting out of this situation. I would call the bank and see what you can do about the joint account before he tries something like cleaning it out and putting it somewhere else as well. I'm so sorry, and I wish you all the best." Then I replied, "I still have my personal account, so I called the bank and set up a meeting for tomorrow. I'm documenting that I've told John not to touch any of the money in the account until everything is worked out. I agree, he's so toxic. John has good points, and I do love him, but I can't forgive the way he went out of his way to spite me during this whole thing. That's not love at all." To another commenter, I said, "I'm definitely withdrawing the amount of my last check from the account first thing tomorrow." Lastly, about the money, I added, "For everyone that's worried, he didn't get his hands on my money. I went straight to the bank and got the amount of my last check out of the account." Another commenter remarked, "I just read your first post and this post. First off, I'm sorry for the loss of your mother. Secondly, I am glad you are rid of that man. He's as toxic as they come. And thirdly, I'm glad you have a supporting family who came through for you. Anyways, your ex sounds downright horrible. In your first post, you said he called your mother a jerk and said she deserved it. I would have left then and there. No one talks like that about family, not even if you have differences with said family, especially if they have passed away. Any amazing qualities he had were all a charade, and he showed you his true self. I'm proud of the fact that you realize that even though your daughter may not know her father, she is going to be better off. Take care of yourself and your daughter." I responded, "I was so shocked when he said it, I didn't know how to react. It literally didn't hit me until about the time I'd made up my mind to post here. He liked to act like my mom was hurtful to him because of her religion, but his main grief with her was that she asked him to lead grace once and he reacted badly. Thank you for your kind words. I plan to take good care of us both." Then another commenter asked, had he ever had any violent action, punching a wall, etc.? I think everyone here is underestimating the risk that this man can have violent reactions in the future. I replied, "Not wall punching, but he'd slam things like the cabinets or the dishwasher or doors, or he'd rattle a chair or something. Nothing crazy violent, just weird."